Oh, I remember the cards.
Oh, do you want to go grab them?
Right here. I have them.
All right, let's see here.
Ready?
My window closed. I think we're live. Okay, yes, we are. Awesome. Okay, so Amalia and Madelaine here today on this beautiful Sunday. How are you doing, Madelaine?
Great. How are you doing, Amalia? Good to see
Doing
you.
good. Doing good. So, Madelaine and I are here to talk to you about the Libra full moon, which is happening on the 12th of April, which is on about a week from today, on a Saturday at 8:21 p.m. Eastern, which would be 5:21 p.m. Pacific at 23 degrees 19 minutes. So, um, I jotted down a few little keywords for Libra. I thought it would be a great way to open up today and anchor in the energy of what this full moon is about. Um, Balance and harmony tend to be the two that people talk about the most, at least in my circles, or the two that I think about. What about companionship, charm, justice, hopefulness, fairness, sociability, artistic? Um, those are kind of like the positive keynotes of Libra. Now, some not so positive ones, ones that might need a little more tenderness and care is indecisiveness, perfectionism, people pleasing. I didn't spend a whole lot of time on the not so positive aspects, but I think it's good to have an awareness, a balance of the two. Couple of planetary things I think are important to note. Mercury is now moving forward, which is great. And we have Venus stationing direct at the time of this full moon, which is also really fantastic. The when it stations, it's a little bit of a like halt, but then as it starts to like get itself moving, we're going to really feel that. And Venus is the ruling planet of Libra. So I feel like it really plays a pivotal role in this moon cycle. I'm sure Madelaine's going to go into that even further. Um, Body gates, kidney, bladder, veins, pancreas, and skin. So the things that really jump out at me with those body gates are when you are choosing foods to eat, be aware of inflammatory properties. So really staying away from sugars and carbs and like really high sweetness sort of foods because it could create an inflammatory response in the body right now, which is really going to be amplified during this full moon period. Um, We've got some really interesting aspects to the moon. One thing that jumped out at me, one of the first things that jumped out at me was Chiron being part of the mix, with Chiron hanging out with the sun, literally at the same degree, just I think like just maybe 19, 20 minutes away. I mean, it's like right there. And then all right, actually, yes. So I think Chiron is at 23 degrees, and we've got this full moon at 23:19. So
It's
Chiron.
22:59.
Oh,
One
there we go.
step away.
Yes. It's like so right there. So I think it's interesting when we think about Chiron, Chiron being these, we talk people talk about it being the unhealed wounds. I don't feel that any wound can be is like unhealable. I feel like they're all healable to a certain extent.
Oh, I
It's
think
how do we navigate that? How do we learn from it that? How do we soften that healing process? Because we think about healing and if you have a wound and it's sensitive, if you touch it, if you poke it, if you scratch it, it's going to hurt. So this is about gentle healing. It's about maybe being aware of it, doing some things to soothe it, while still being in connection to like, oh, that kind of stings, but I know that that is part of the healing process. So I want to just give a little bit of context for the Chiron and Aries because this is to me, the way I see this is we've got the balance between Aries and Libra. So we have these two opposing energies. Aries is very more self-focused, Libra is more other-focused, and we're trying to bring those into balance. Now, when we have that Chiron in Aries, we're exposing a wound that relates to our own identity. So when you have a wound that relates to your identity, reflect on how your feelings of shame or inadequacy might be coming up and affecting how you are experiencing some aspect of your life. Think about Chiron and Aries as areas of your life that require deep emotional healing and a sense of empowerment. And think about the moon and Libra as bringing balance and harmony to your inner world so that you can contribute to the whole. So hopefully that helps you kind of anchor in what that might be for you and to understand a little bit more about it. See what house this falls, where Aries falls in your chart. And Madeleine's going to be talking about this when she goes through all 12 signs. But I just feel like this is such a prime opportunity for us. But be aware there could potentially be challenge in order to highlight what this is. And because it's a full moon, this could be a time of completion, which is really great, especially for those like myself who have our Chiron and Aries natally speaking. So it's pretty significant time period.
Is
Okay.
full moon on your Chiron? Is the
No,
sign of tree is your Chiron?
17.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
You're kind of off the hook, although you're gonna have Mars square that. Oh no, you're off that. Okay, good.
Yeah.
You're in the clear.
I think I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
But it's still, to me, it feels like, there might be like a little outer vestige of it as we're embarking on this new cycle. So, all right, we've got the sun in Aries, the moon in Libra. Think about Libra as peace and cooperation, and think about Aries as action and assertiveness. And so there might be a little bit of tension between these two energies. We kind of touched on that already. The moon will be squaring Mars. I know, Madeleine, you're likely going to be talking about that. You already just brought it up. So it's this tension between your desire for harmony and your instinct to protect your own emotions and your own personal space. So, this is going to be aware of any passive aggressive tendencies that you might have or emotional outbursts. There might be a bit of an impulsive energy to this. Then we also have the moon trine Jupiter, which is really lovely. This is about deepening your understanding of relationships and personal growth. You'll have an opportunity to communicate effectively. It's very confident, self-assured, social, and curious. So there's a little bit of challenge, but then there's also some comforting energies that play along with us here as well, which I think is really kind of nice. I think most of the time, even if there's a challenge, we've got some sort of softness or some sort of support in the mix. Do you feel like that's the case, Madeleine, typically?
Well, honestly, it depends on your personal chart how this is going to play out because a lot about this full moon is about reaping what you sow. So it depends how much work you've done and how much spiritual bypassing you've done. And by the way, everyone can spiritually bypass. It doesn't
Yeah.
make you, but you'll see in this full moon if you've spiritually bypassed your growth or not. And if you have, then you might get pretty triggered.
Well, let's show the impact chart so that folks
Yeah, take a
can
look.
see how they may potentially be affected,
Yeah.
depending on their personal chart. So let me pull this up for everyone to see. So folks who have any points or planets between 18 and 28 degrees of the cardinal signs, which are Aries, Libra, Gemini. I'm sorry, Aries, Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn. So, you all are going to be feeling this in a significant way. How significant and in what way depends on your natal stars. So, pretty pretty good to know, though, if you have any points or planets there, to just give yourself a little bit of grace in these next 2 weeks. And then I also want to share the the gene key, and then I'll share the flower after you go through the signs, Madelaine, as to not fire hose
Okay.
people with too much information. But I wanted to share the gene key for the simple reason that I feel like this is really such a beautiful support to what's going on. I still have not recorded a video about the gene keys, but I will. When I do, I'll drop a link in the description below. And that way, just know that you can use these keynotes as just little areas of reflection. That's all you need to even know at this moment. So we have Gene Key 42 with the keynotes of celebration, detachment, and expectation. So what does this mean? So on the full moon day, especially, this is activated. So pay attention to in your life where you have any sense of expectation, an expectation of yourself and an expectation of others. Where can you detach from that? So, think about this in terms of Libra. This could be something within relationships. You have an expectation of your partner to fulfill some specific need. They don't do it. You feel disappointed. When you're at a place of detachment of the outcome, still being able to express your needs, but not being attached to that person having to fulfill them, you can then up level into a space of celebration. And celebration is, you think about celebration, it's where people come together. It's like this gathering of sorts. You're able to celebrate with other people. You're able to celebrate with someone else and even celebrate with yourself. So to me, this very much is such a beautiful complement to a Libra Aries sort of energy, the expectation, detachment, and celebration. So just paying attention to where that may show up in your life. And then the other part of this I want to just highlight here is the
Turn it
physiology.
around.
What's wrong with it? What's wrong?
I wish we could turn it around and
Oh, so you can see all the things.
yeah.
um, the other part of this is the soul, is the sacral. So when you're connecting in with your sacral, your power, your creativity, like that it's an energy force. It's something that can really move you. That is also activated and highlighted right now. So I'm not going to go too far into that, but just these are some keywords that you can pay attention to, even if you're not following the astrology, even if you just want to connect to the energy. This is a really simple way to do that. But we're going to expand and go deep into the astrology too, because it's fun and it's really great to have as much information as possible to support you through that.
I
So
was looking in the Gene Key to see if any of those words related to the astrology that I was going to talk about, and a couple of the things were.
oh, great. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you want to go ahead and share a little bit about
Sure.
what you see, and then I'll share the flower, and then we'll get into the 12
Yeah.
signs.
So this is a huge, huge full moon. I mean, it is pretty impactful, but I went back and I studied all the new moons in the last 3 years, and it's really
Wow.
interesting. Yeah. So if we go to number one, here's this common thing that's going on through all these new moons. This Chiron is in the picture, and this is a Libra full moon. Was this an eclipse? This was a new moon Libra on 9/25/2022. And what do we see here? We're going to see this theme going on throughout this. We've got Mars trining Saturn. Okay, so this was in a Libra. It was a Libra full moon at 2 degrees, and Mars was trining Saturn. Now we're going to go to 2023. This is a Libra solar eclipse. Guess what's happening? Mars is trining Saturn.
Mhm.
Chiron is in the picture. Chiron is there. Both of them I didn't show you, but Chiron, well, I'll go back. Chiron is in this picture too. Chiron was in Aries, opposite this thing. Okay, opposite this whatever that one was. Okay. I'm going to go to 2024. Let's put 2024 up here and go to 2024. Guess what we see? Mars trining Saturn. Now we're going to go
Wow.
to this. Yep. Now we're going to go to this one today. This is the one coming up. This is the one here on the 13th. I get on the 13th. Moon 23, Sun 23. Guess what? Mars squares Saturn. Mars trine Saturn. And guess what? It's right conjunct Chiron. So I'm going to explain what's going on here. From all these new moons, what's been happening is we've been learning, most people I work for work for, read for, whatever. I guess I work for them. They are over giving in relationships. And then there's resentment, and then there's anger, and then there's the other person's disappointing you. And so we've been working. So with all these eclipses, it started in Aries and Libra in the last, when they started about 18 months ago or more, maybe 2 years ago. We've been with Chiron and Aries, we've been healing the wounding that makes us work too hard for relationships, give too much, want the relationship too much, people please in the relationship, holding on through codependent, toxic fears of being alone, or shall we say, wounding based motives and behavior. So guess what? Chiron's coming in on this. Chiron's been in there this whole time with Mars, mostly squaring Chiron in the last couple months, uh, healing the wounding that causes us to be out of balance in our relationships, to either being too selfish or too giving. Because if someone's being too giving in a relationship, the other person's probably being too selfish. There, so there's some
Yeah.
sort of like out of balance give and take, and then that creates toxicity in the relationship. It stems in fear-based attachment. Both sides, are playing out a wounding dynamic in these partnerships. Now you can be you can be with your true love and playing out these dynamics. You can be single and playing out this dynamic with someone that you're involved with or separating from or whatever. So in the last 18 months, we've been healing out of balanced, giving too much or being too selfish in relationships, but we have to work on this. We had to do a lot of work because we had Mars trining Saturn on every single one of these lunations, which means work you do now is in order to be stable in the future. Work you do now solidifies and grounds something. So work you do now makes you able to be in a relationship come this full moon. The work you do now during these lunations, all in the back that I've looked at since 2022, has been setting us on a path to work on ourselves and heal the woundings that cause us to act in out of balance ways in our relationships. So this is part of the sky. It's the planet, it's the star of Sika, which is the harvest. It's actually Virgo Libra axis. And it shows a woman with a harvest, and it's in her hand, and there's bright stars and jewels. It's in the nakshatra that's represented by the stools. It's the jewels. It's very bright, benefic, really abundant. Here, I'll read you my notes on the on Sika. She has a jewel in her hand. It's success, riches, love, art, science. It also removes scarcity mindedness. It gives the riches because she's giving the harvest. It's the full moon of receiving a harvest, the receiving what you have, reaping what you have sown.
Mhm.
And so this is a really positive full moon, but with that conjoining of Chiron making a square to Mars, you're really seeing if you've done the work or not, because if you haven't, you are going to get triggered. It's going to be painful. But that's not that big of a deal. Oh, right, you do the work then instead and you bypassed it. No big deal. But that's what this full moon will do, is it will show you how ready you are in this journey of balancing and not giving too much or wanting a relationship too much, or vice versa, or turning away from one as an escaping from not dealing. You know, so this Spica is marked good fortune for writers, artists, painters, sculptors, musicians, spiritualists, because it's ruled by Jupiter and Mars and Venus. It's basically and wealth. It's a giver of wealth. So basically, what we're doing here is it provides our material needs. Um, However, it goes with reaping what we have harvested. So if we've harvested nothing, we will reap nothing. So so this is a full moon of reaping the success of our Chiron Mars square. And and then I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the Saturn because I wrote some really great. So your love life will benefit from your loyalty and devotion, and your partner will find your dedication and dependability as attractive. Um, this is an excellent time to legitimize and concentrate or formalize a partnership. Lasting success and practical results can be found in business. This is all about Mars trining Saturn. This is the energy of Mars trine Saturn. This is an excellent time to start legal proceedings, a large business, laying foundations. Expect good relations and support from authority figures, parents, teachers, bosses. It gives you strength, ambition, endurance. It makes you focus on things, focus on tasks, focused on our healing, especially when Mars was in Cancer, and which it is right now. It's helping us, follow through on, when you have Mars trine Saturn, you're disciplined, you're following through on your efforts, you're putting good focused effort. It's going to reap rewards for the long haul. It makes you able to commit. It makes your relationship material. It basically, Mars trine Saturn creates lasting long-term effects and positive outcomes of your efforts. So there it is. There's Mars in Cancer. It's about to leave Cancer. On the 18th, it'll move into Leo. So we will have pretty much been done. So this full moon basically is the last leg of whatever healing, whatever triggering you have to do. And by the way, a lot of people may end their relationships. I know people with transits here that are probably ending their relationships right now. This will break a relationship because it will reveal whether it's whether it's just you out of balance in this dynamic, or whether just you could never, this relationship just is not your true. There is no harmony here that you can find, and that you've just been under an illusion. Maybe you have Neptune somewhere in your chart that's impacting you. And so then you discover that you have to leave this relationship. And so you do have to face the consequences. A lot of Libras, this is a Libra full moon, so it's going to be hitting a lot of Libras, and a lot of Libras get in relationships and they stay in them for a long time because they just like to be in relationships, and they just gravitate to it just happens. Libras are very seldom single. So it's like they go through this, and the sad thing is they probably have to end most of their relationships, because most of us, I mean, you only really have one divine partnership. So Libra go through a bunch before they find one. But this might be that challenging time where you have to end a relationship. And because the point of all of this, the reason that Mars has been trining Saturn, and the reason Chiron is there, and the reason we're healing our out of balance thing, is to heal the wounded, insecure, low self-esteem, unwounded, the part that doesn't make us warriors, shall we say, that the scared little person in us that we all have is dying. It needs to go away. And so have we made choices from the scared little person in relationships? And that's what's going to show up. And if that's the case, and also we're healing that scared little person. And so if you're in the wrong relationship, you got into one from a scared little person, but then that's going to fall apart. And now you're ready, you're healed. You've become relationship. We've on a mass, on a collective, we've become healed enough to become relationship material. So that's what all these last lunations have done. And why a lot of people are still single, that, a lot of, or they're in back and forth situations. It's because they're healing, working on these out of balanced, you can just say, okay, I'm not going to give too much to the relationship. And the other one's going to say, I'm going to turn more into the relationship or whatever, and not be so selfish. But if the thing that's inside you that triggers you to that fear attachment that holds on to the relationship through giving too much and doing too much, there's an underlying issue there.
So that almost feels like the unhealable wound archetype in a way. Because if you're not addressing that, you're not paying attention to that part of yourself, and you're just going about life without tending to it, then you're not actually going to move through it. You're not going to change the dynamic. You're not going to change anything within the relationship.
Yeah.
Truly.
If you blame the other person for your pain, and you blame like you're giving too much because you're not giving enough. Well, it might be because the relationship's not naturally it doesn't give enough because it's not love. Like only love really gives you, if it's love, it gives you enough naturally. So we're just in the wrong relationships, that it's just not there. So you can't, the more you give doesn't make it there.
Yeah.
So, but it is 100% healable, 100%, because even if you don't do the work, the pain of the struggle in relationships grows you, just because just feeling the
Yeah.
pain, you're purging it, you're healing it, and you know, and the relationship, if you're giving too much and it's the wrong relationship, is gonna fall apart right now. I mean, I looked at this chart and I went, ooh, okay, well, there's that really.
Oh boy.
I
Well,
know.
do you
So
mind,
go
do you have
ahead.
anything else you
Stop.
want to share about the, oh, okay, you're all done. Okay. Well, I feel like the flower is such a beautiful support for this energy. I don't know if you had something else you wanted to share, Madelaine, before I share
Just
the flower.
one little quick thing here,
Yep.
I'll quickly pop in, is that we do have this beautiful, I mean, we've got a lot happening this week, which I'm not going to go into because we've got Mercury and Venus, the planet that rules us, as you mentioned, is going direct. So we're going to get a lot of clarity on this issue. We're going to get tremendous clarity on where we've been out of balance. We're going to heal that with all that reflective energy with Venus in retrograde and Mercury. We're going to realize how we didn't communicate. We didn't, you know, there's a lot of we have a lot of part in our failures in relationships. And you were talking about shame and all that with these retrograde. You kind of go back and you feel bad about some of the things you said and did. But we have this beautiful angles with Uranus as well, because
Mm,
Mars is well, that's just today we've got some really great energies, but as Mercury and Venus go direct, we're going to get a lot of clarity on who we want to be with. We're going to be making big choices when that north node conjoins Saturn. North node is involved in all of this, so that clarity is going to make us, on this full moon, it's going to help us see who we want to be with, what big commitment, and a lot of people are going to get in very long-term committed relationships, or partnership agreements. Like a lawyer is a seventh house Venus relationship. Someone you might come into, if you're in your permanent relationship, you know what lawyer you want to hire, and this is going to be for an important thing that shifts your life, you know, that kind of a thing. So the clarity of this full moon, you heal something, you wake up to some wounding that isn't healed, that throws you out of balance in relationships, and then you also become very clear on who you love, what your part in it was, and how you can correct it. So this is a week of things going really forward with all that clarity. So that's all.
and I'm going to give Madelaine a little shout out. So if anyone is not following her on social media, i.e. Instagram or YouTube, please follow her, because she is doing a number of things. She's been sharing a lot of the astrology on a regular basis when it comes to, I'm sure you'll be talking about this, the Venus forward movement and just the different energies around that. And for the month of April, she has recorded videos for every one of the 12 signs to give you a little bit of a flavor, a taste of what's coming up for you in April. So I highly recommend that you check her out, Soul Growth Astrology,
Thanks,
right?
Amalia.
Right, Madelaine?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
okay?
Soul
Yeah.
Growth Astrology, my name. Yeah, because we've got a lot of big shifts coming in that you might want to check in on in the middle of the month, right here around this full moon.
Yeah, so definitely go check her out there. So lots of good stuff. I watched my ascendant video and I shared it with some friends who are also Scorpio ascendants. I actually am just thinking of one other person I need to send it to, because it was a really beautiful synopsis. You know, I'm paying attention too. So, you
Yeah.
know, to be able to like anchor that in and then also learn some other things that I didn't see or tune into was really, really cool.
Hey,
So
thank
highly
you.
recommend that you all check that out. So for so for this Libra full moon, we're bringing in some flower power, as we always do, and we have the rhododendron. Now, I want to bring in the flower from the Aries new moon. Very different energy if you look at the two of these. So the red hibiscus has to do with hitting the refresh button. It's a fresh perspective. So this is like hope, relief. It's that light at the end of the tunnel. It's a brand new start. And then here we have the rhododendron, which has a feeling of comfort. It is compassionate. It's a reminder to be kind to yourself. But what I think is very interesting about this flower is it also strengthens all kinds of relationships. It helps you feel included, valued, and loved, which is such a supportive energy based on this Libra full moon. And if you look here too, we've got the red hibiscus, which is a little bit more of a, this feels like more of a self-focused flower, where the rhododendron is a little bit more, it feels like a little bit more group oriented. You know, there's a lot more happening with the rhododendron as far as like the petals and the flowers, where the red hibiscus is a little bit more, feels a little more self-focused. So the rhododendron is
That
a
is
great flower.
really, that is so pretty because that's so Venus, isn't it? That pretty pinky white kind of pretty
Yes,
thing.
it really is. And
Can be
I forgot to look. Let me take a quick peek here. I'm curious what elixir the rhododendron is in. So if anyone is interested in being able to have a little bit of the essence, I'm in the midst of moving, as you may be able to tell by my background. And I don't have my stuff on my desk because my desk is pretty much clear. Let me see what this is in. I want it's just in case. Oh, well, I guess if I would have thought for a second instead of just jumping to look, it's in the blend Fierce Compassion. So if anyone's looking to use an elixir or a mist, I love the mists. They're really fantastic. That is a great one for you to look into. And I have, if you use my name, Amalia, you get 10% off your first order. I will leave the link below. So on that note, Madelaine, are you ready to jump in?
Yep.
Let's go.
Okay, Aries. So you guys, one, you're ruled by Mars. So all of this work has been happening a lot to you. You've been doing a lot of work. And I won't go into detail. Well, I work with a lot of readings, and a lot of Aries have been more in a sort of, not all Aries, but they've been a little bit in the exploratory way, shall we say, exploring options, exploring the world out there. Anyway, with a full moon in your seventh house, you now know with that clarity with Venus in your first house, well, about to become in your first house, and Mercury about to become in your first house, you're going to know what contracts you want to say. Let's say you're Aries rising and you're in the film industry, which is very Venetian Venus, and you now know what kind of a partner, who you want to partner with. So you sign a contract. Libra is a contract. It's about signing contracts. So you decide to, you could get a big new client coming in that signs a contract if you're a lawyer. Or romantic. A lot of this is romantic, and you heal. You've realized you've been either very selfish or you haven't been giving enough, or you suddenly become aware because you would have been just very in your head space rather than your heart space. And you suddenly make a big connection with that full moon. You suddenly, with that Mercury and then Venus about to go direct the day after, you suddenly realize who your person truly is, who the right people are for you, who you do want to sign a contract with. Because remember, we're looking at a 29-year commitment here, not to scare people, but you know,
Be prepared. Next 29
yeah,
years, this is what you got.
yeah, and all that wounding, all that healing of the wounding for the Aries with Mars in Cancer would have been mother-based wounding, early childhood issues where you're not enough and you're seeking outside of yourself for something to fill you up in relationships or something. And so now you have this sort of transformation with this full moon where you see the culmination of that journey. You're done with this. You've learned the lesson. You know that Libra is about a spiritual relationship. Libra is more intellectual and Taurus is more physical. So but also Libra would be more the ideal. So you're going, and then with Venus in exaltation in Pisces during this full moon, it's your divine partner. It's your true love. It's the spiritual. You wake up to a spiritual connection and the importance of that. And again, with Mars trining Saturn, that's the one that's going to last. So all this work has been healing you so that you're basically prepared and able to be relationship material for the Saturn-based relationship. Don't forget, Venus is going to join Saturn. I mean, there's so much to talk about. But when Venus joins Saturn, it can be a kind of restrictive energy depending on where you are, on work, but where you are as far as your growth. But it can be a very positive transit where you become very clear because it's just gone direct on who you do want to commit to, or what contract or clients or whatever you do want to commit to. And don't forget, you could get triggered You could get triggered there with Chiron is in your first house. But I'm going to say, because I'm seeing this a lot with my readings, that most people's triggers are lightening, they're lessening, they're seeing through them, they're not reactive, because we're here to learn to not react to the triggers. So I would say Aries have done a lot of work. I would say most of them have done a lot of work. And I don't think it was easy because you've had Mars squaring Chiron in your first house. So you could have had accidents and injuries. But the growth is definitely going to show up for you and this full moon. You'll see the growth.
Wow. I mean, I do feel like Aries. I have a couple of clients who are Aries, and they've been through the ringer. This
Yeah,
has not been an easy 18 months for them. And this feels like a new beginning for them, like
yeah,
a new I wouldn't say it's a clean slate because it's not. It's just like this other pathway is opening up, and I love this giant spider lily for Aries. And the reason why I love this is because this has a feeling of lightness and lightheartedness to it. It brings a feeling of effortlessness and simplicity. It allows the energy of the mind to be freed up so they're not in this worry mode all the time. Um, and it also highlights, and I think this is a really powerful indicator of this Libra full moon. It highlights any blind spots that they might have about themselves or their relationships or their path forward. So this is a really, to me, a really beautiful flower, and I love the colors. Just everything about it really strikes me as a supportive energy for Aries. So the giant spider lily.
yeah. And because Libra is an air energy that's usually kind of white. It's very spiritual in a way. It's electric. So it feels like that's a big breakthrough, like breaking through to the, you know, person.
Mhm.
Although that is not one person. I don't know.
Well,
Are they
I feel
into one person here?
what struck me about this was it was almost like they had all these different people or opportunities presented to them, and now they're getting clarity on which one to choose. It's
Yes, because
like,
Aries are very charismatic. Lots of people are very attracted to Aries.
yeah. So, all right, Aries,
All
get
right.
ready.
Taurus. Let's take a look for Taurus here. Let's see. Okay, so Libra is going to be, where is Libra for Taurans? Why am I not seeing this? Where the heck? Okay, there it is. Libra over your fifth. Is it no Libra over your sixth? Okay, Libra's over your sixth. So you're going to have a sixth house lunation. So then you see, okay, so there's going to be Taurus. You're ruled by Venus. So you're going to feel this. The sixth house is where we kind of are victims, or we throw ourselves under the bus for a relationship, or we try again, very much they're Venus ruled. They want their relationships. They care about their relationships. They matter. Then they give too much to relationships, and then they get resentful, or they alter their life in some way, shape their life to fit the relationship. And they think they're being really, really nice. I'm not saying they're not, but they tend to have a little bit of an expectation they think, well, I'm doing all this, I should get this, or there's a little bit of an over giving, because if you're going to have Libra over your sixth house, um that's going to be a throwing yourself under the bus for your relationships and being a little bit of a victim. And so in this full moon, and you would have had all this Chiron, and Aries is going to be in your 12th house. So you're really clearing some deep karmic patterning with that Chiron there, some karmic past life trauma that's making you distort yourself for relationships. And it's almost like when you get in a relationship, you start living, you change how you live your life for the relationship, when really you're going to be in a relationship that how you live your life echoes that or harmonizes with that. But I think if you've been stepping into relationships that you've had to contort yourself to harmonize, you're going to see that. You may not necessarily end the relationship, but you might end contorting yourself and allow the relationship to fall away or not. Or you get triggered and you decide you start finding yourself back into that behavior, and you stop and you pull yourself out of it, and you can see it. And especially with Venus and Mercury direct, you get clarity. And then because like I do work with some Taurans over this very topic actually. And what happens is, if you're in the true love relationship, it actually does work better when you stop just, contorting yourself or in any way trying to shape yourself. And then you become who you truly are, and the right relationship absolutely flourishes. It goes way better. And then the wrong one, of course, falls away. So it could be painful if that's the wrong one, if you're in the wrong one. And that's why we don't like to split up, because it's painful. So a lot of people stay in long-term relationships just because they don't want to go through the pain. I know that happened to me once. That happened to me in my marriage. I just didn't want to go through the hell of divorce. I mean, it's just terrifying. But honestly, on the other side, you're liberated, you're free, and you're freed up, and you're healed here for your true divine partnership, because Venus is in Pisces. A lot of people are in marriages and their divine partners, they're not married to them. So a lot of these lunations, they break that relationship's going to fall apart, and then you line up with your true person. If you're with your true person, Taurans, again, you're just balancing yourself better into this relationship where the give and take is more even.
Yeah. It is interesting. I feel like that's the same. I think that's a great point to bring up too, about the pain of ending a relationship. I mean, listen, if a relationship needs to end, it sucks. I mean, it's
Yep.
hard. However, staying in a relationship that isn't aligned with who you are and who you're meant to be is also painful, but for different reasons.
Yeah.
And so you're hurting yourself, you're hurting the other person. It's it's a challenge. It's a challenge either way, but on the other side of really honoring yourself, you are
Yeah.
liberated.
Yeah.
And Madelaine and I both had that experience, and it's a game changer in life for
Yeah.
sure. No,
And the other thing is, a lot of people feel bad, like for ending the relationship. If they want to leave, they feel really guilty. But if you're not in love with the person, really what you're doing is you're freeing them up for a
yeah,
person that is in love with them. It's kind of selfish. I'm not shaming anybody, but in a way, staying in a relationship that isn't right just because you don't want the person to be upset, or, it kind of implies that you're their God or that you're their savior or something, like I know people who do that. They just stay in it because they don't want to break their loyalty or something. But anyway, if it's not your true person in these energies, it will most likely fall apart. And don't try not to hold on to a relationship, because you're just preventing each other from finding the people you will be happy with.
yeah. Well, hang on, hang on. We
I'm
have
sorry.
the Icelandic lichen, I think it's called. This dissolves fatigue, fragility, and a lack of follow through, which I feel like is really beautifully connected to the sixth house of your wellness and your day to day, your work. Um, One of the keynotes here too is to strengthen others by being strong within yourself. I think this is a really powerful message for Taurans with the energy that Madelaine and I were just talking about, and then root that energy to the earth. As you can see, this flower grows, close to the ground. And so it's a very grounded, very connected type of energy. So the more we bring in that strength within ourselves, the more that we are honoring ourselves, we're able to move forward in our lives in a way that I want to say is almost easeful. We can kind of flow with our life in a way that we can't when we're almost pushing against ourselves by, for example, staying in a relationship that isn't really truly aligned to who we are. And I'm going to give myself a shameless plug here of my book, You
Yes,
to
your book.
Me, a story of love, loss, and liberation, for just that, being in a relationship that no longer fits who I am and who I really desired to be, and
Mhm.
making a really tough choice to leave a marriage of 25 years
Yeah.
in order to do that. Now, granted, there were other factors at play as well, but whatever the story is for you, you might find some nuggets of wisdom, some strategy, some support, some just different pathways of understanding yourself and the relationship to make an informed choice. And there are insight sheets inside, so basically like little workbooks and some digital resources for folks too that they have access to when they purchase the book. So check
Aren't
it
you
out.
glad though that you did it?
Absolutely, unbelievably happy
Yeah.
I made that really tough choice at the
Yeah.
time. And life has opened up in ways I never could have imagined um, before. And yes, yeah, very much so. So if anyone wants to check that out, it's at we2me.love. You can learn more about it. Okay, we're ready for Gemini. Here we go.
Gemini. All right, Gemini, where does this hit for you? Brilliant, intelligent people. All right, Gemini, let's see. Okay, so Libra is over your fifth house. And you're ruled by Mercury, so Mercury's about to go direct tomorrow. And then Libra, Venus goes direct on the 13th after this, and this is in your fifth house of relationship. So a friend becomes, you suddenly realize someone who's a friend is your person. Um, you suddenly discover who your real people are. With Chiron there, you might have had a fallout with some people over, you may have made friends with people from an insecurity, small people place to try to be friends with certain people. It isn't working out. You realize it coming from a wounded, needy place or something. Um, and you are, with the sun in the 11th house, there's a good chance you discover who your true tribe are, and then somebody in this tribe is somebody you can commit to. But you would have done a lot of work on your, shall we say, where is the Taurus house? Yeah, 12th house. So you would have done a lot of karmic work, deep karmic subconscious healing on the through friends, letting friends, having to let go of some friends and having to sort of um learn about your, shall we say, ways you contort yourself or try to be people pleaser or try to like make friends for the sake of friends because you want to feel like you have friends. But basically what's going to, it doesn't mean all of the friends, like not, I don't mean like all of your friends, but you're going to realize some of the wounding behind some of the choices you've made and friends that haven't necessarily shown up for you. But this shifts it. This is going to shift you into sort of solid commitment with most likely one of these people. That if you're single, if you're in a relationship, then there's a good chance you get involved in creative projects. Even if you're single, you could get involved in a creative project with your true person here, and you discover who it is. Entrepreneurial ventures, intellectual projects, writing. And then you've got like, Mars has been in your second house. So you have been really working on some deep, low self-esteem issues because it's squaring Chiron in your 11th. So you've probably made some friends or been a part of tribe from a low self-esteem, from feeling like a small person. I mean, I'm not saying that, let's just put it this way. Because you've had Mars in your second house, so you're learning to value yourself more than say them. Because it's all about learning how not to give too much for your friendships. So you've given too much for friendships. Or you haven't given enough to friendships. And you now realize you need to cultivate your friendships more and you need to cultivate relationships more. But basically, this is all about um, give and take involved with the tribe and friends, and realizing who the ones you really want to give to that are really long term, that you feel more of a committed long term association with. But also there's a lot of healing involved here, which now makes you relationship material for a true love divine partner.
Well, Gemini has the peony as their flower support. And this to me also is another one of those very Venusian sort of feeling flowers.
Yeah.
This has this a magnetizing quality. So, I love that for a fifth house because of the romantic nature of the fifth house. And, being, it's almost like kind of what I'm seeing is, maybe someone that you have had an interaction with that you've met before, and you see them again, and all of a sudden you see them in a different light. They all of a sudden look very attractive to you, where the first time you met them, maybe they didn't leave an impression, but now something has shifted, something has changed. And this flower to me kind of highlights that. It also attracts abundance. So maybe one of the projects that you're focused on is, maybe it has to do with something that could offer you some monetary abundance. It could give you some sort of I wouldn't say a windfall, but a little bit of a boost. The other aspect of this of the peony that I really love is a feeling of lusciousness.
Mm.
Lusciousness. That also just feels so like romantic, but also can be very much about the love of yourself. It can be with someone or not. And this also has to do with the profound gratitude for the beauty of life. So this peony, I feel like this also epitomizes this energy of Libra in so many ways, but really connects in with that fifth house romantic kind of quality, that connection that you have with other people, and the possibility of projects or different creative endeavors that you have going on, having a beauty to them or a luster. So the peony.
Yes, and you know what? You have Uranus in your 12th house, which this looks like a card of people falling in love. So if you have your Uranus in your 12th house, you could suddenly meet, and it's ruled by Venus because it's in Taurus. That's your other Venus house. You could suddenly meet your true love. Like that's usually when you meet your true person, there's a Uranian transit. It's like a surprise. And falling in love, So people could fall in love in this full moon, meet their person.
So nice.
Yeah,
Love,
beautiful.
love.
Venus is great.
All right, Cancer.
Cancer. So you all have had Mars in your first house. You're probably the group of people that are doing the most work on codependency and attachment issue in relationships. If your soul has attachment, addictive tendencies towards your relationship, you're born as Cancer, as punishment. I'm kidding. So there's a deep healing going on in their physical bodies with that Mars being there and in retrograde, healing deep emotional upsets about relationships. And with Aries being over your 10th house and Libra being over your fourth, there's a good chance that because you've had eclipses there, all those lunations have been in your fourth house and they've been healing you and preparing you for this moment where you're probably going to move. If you're single, you're going to move in with your true person. You're going to become very committed, get married, live, cohabitate. Um, and also because it's that fourth house. Now, cancers have a lot of mother issues, mother, daughter, son, mother issues, right? Most cancers, when they're born, they don't like their mother. I mean, that's been something I've seen. Sometimes they do, but a lot of times they don't. So there's some sort of upset expectations they have of their relationships and their mothers. There's some sort of expectations cancers have that they're very nurturing. They mesh in their relationships. They are all in there, and then they get sort of, I want to say rejected, but like it's not reciprocated because it's the cancers are wanting the relationships too much. They want that home security thing. They want that, and it's part of who they are. So cancers are just, they've got Capricorn over their seventh house. So they work hard on their relationship. So this is the sign that's going to have the most growth with that Chiron squaring Mars, where they're really letting go because it's squaring their seventh house as well. So cancers are really letting go. That you can be in your long-term divine healthy relationship, but you're going to change this dynamic where you're the one that's just a little too into the relationship and now it kind of flips and you get a reversal if you're single or you've met your person, you're in separation. And so this could very well be reconciliations for many cancers into their true divine partnerships. Again, having done a lot of work, if they haven't done the work, it'll show up. They'll get triggered again. It'll happen. And but I think most cancers have done a lot of work because of this Mars in your first house. I don't think you had a choice. So that really lines most cancers up into union or into their divine partnerships or into soul collaborative contracted partnership agreements. It could be a clients or work partnerships. For instance, you could be in a music band that Libra is anything from like any kind of a contract, any kind of collaborative, like bands in your, if you're a musician and you have bandmates, that seventh house relationship, you'll have a contract where you meet every week. If you have a landlord, they're your seventh house. A lawyer is a seventh house relationship. So it can be anything. It can be, and you suddenly, let's say you've had a lawyer for a while, but you haven't been in your power and you've been sort of unable to assert your will, and then you decide to end that relationship with that lawyer because you can't really, it's not an even situation, you're not being heard or something. So you change lawyers, but that's the kind of energy that it can play out in a variety of different ways. But mostly with Venus and Mercury there, it's reflecting on where the cancer, what the wounding, the mother source wounding is, ancestral wounding, and healing that from a very big place and transforming the love. This is big because cancers are what they're doing is they're transforming the love energy, because what happens when you have love energy, it's very overpowering, especially for cancer, and they just don't even really know what to do with all that feeling because they're so emotional and they feel things so much that they're just like, and this happens to Pisces too. They're like so in love, it just takes over. So what happens is you have to transform that love into this pillar of strength and know that it's divinely given. And so what you, and you were, I think you mentioned this a little bit, where you use that love as a power force and not as an outside external thing that you're getting or not getting. Instead, you go, wow, I'm in love. I feel love. It's a force inside of me. And that's really what it's all supposed to be for all of us. We're not supposed to be materially attached to our partners. We're supposed to be um, celebrating the fact that divine has given us this incredible energy for them. And that how to use this, how to work with this force. And it's mostly to give us strength and power. So, so yeah, so this full moon for cancers will reveal whether they've done a lot of detachment work or not. And if they haven't, then they'll be triggered and it'll show up. And there is, like for instance, Mercury Mercury is going to go into Aries, and that squares your seventh house. Chiron squares your seventh house. So if you've got planets in your seventh house like I do, I've got like Mercury, Mars, and Venus all in my seventh house being squared by all of this. So are cancers going to be reactive during this full moon period, or are we going to be wise? We're going to tune it down and not let this trigger. So I would say most cancers are healed, done a lot of work, and because a lot of cancers are stepping up into very sort of powerful spiritual missions, and we've got a lot going on for cancers this month. But on the whole, this is a big deal for cancers because this is a big wounding that's central in their lives that they've had to really work on and find their own power um, through that experience.
Well, I feel like this flower is pretty
Oh,
powerful looking.
yeah.
Fire
Interesting.
star orchid.
Yeah.
And the one thing about this fire star orchid that really I feel like anchors in the energy of what you were sharing specifically is
Uh-huh.
seeing beyond what you've seen before. You were talking about the wounds that we have, and it's very easy to kind of fall into the default pattern and the default belief system, and this is just how we've seen it up until this point. But it's now being able to like expand our view a little bit more, especially with that trine to Jupiter that we have to this moon as well. To be able to expand your view and then come from a solid foundation of courage. So maybe you have to do some, maybe you have to have a really tough conversation with your mom, or maybe you are reflecting on different situations that you had in the past with your family of origin in some way, and you're shifting that narrative, you're changing that story. This is a flower of innovation and ingenuity. So that might be required here in order to move through this transit in a new and powerful way. And then we have this fire star orchid energy of, this power, the reds and the oranges that are kind of like, I see it almost like fuel behind you, like kind of like giving you a turbo boost, like a rocket ship, where it's like that's coming out from behind you and it's propelling you forward in a new way. So the fire star orchid for Cancer.
That's interesting because that's Aries color and Mars color. So I would say that the Cancers have been restored to their power, and they're more in the Aries energy than the Libra energies in that dynamic. Some of the
Mm.
flowers are showing the air energy, the more Libra energies. Some people have to balance more into Aries energy, and some people have to balance more into the Libra energy.
Interesting. That's an interesting observation. I love
I
that,
just
Madelaine.
noticed that with the white and the red, it's kind of like
Yeah. Yeah.
Leo.
All right, Leo.
So Leo, you have it in your, let's take it here to Leo. First of all, you're going to have Mars coming into your first house on the April 18th. So you're going to be fired up, motivated, working out, inspired about starting a new initiative project. Um, changing, you become, your identity could shift. A lot of stuff happens with Mars in the first house in Leo. That's a lot of energy going there. And then so your Libra house is over your where the heck is Libra now? Third house. Okay. So now for Leo, there's going to be some sort of communication, or I would say this is a full moon in your third house. So there, I'm going to go with communication issues in relationships for Leo showing up because they would have had Chiron opposite that in their ninth house. So what happens, I think, with Leos is they go through this belief thing or perceptive thing, and then they think this can happen in relationships. You tell yourself a story what's going on, but it's not really what's going on, but you think that's what's going on, and it's from a wounded place. So you're telling a story from a wounded place rather than from what's really going on. So then either you're not communicating because you don't want to create problems, and you're trying to be a people pleaser, so you're not communicating in the struggle, or in even your long-term divine counterpart relationship. You can still have to learn lessons of communication in relationships, no matter, doesn't matter if you're in the relationship with a person or not. You learning how to communicate in relationships in a way that isn't trying to, and I want to say, manipulate. But that has some sort of a negative angle, but really it just means speaking what you want the other people to hear. That is very Libra. My ex-husband has Libra Mars. He always just told me what I wanted to hear. He used to drive me bananas. So, so, so Leo may have some sort of idea that, and my Leo son does this. I love him, but he does do this where they think they know where you are. So then they're going to communicate in a way that responds to where they think you are and what you're thinking and where you're, do you get what I'm saying? They've got a perception about what I am or what I'm thinking, and so then they're going to communicate in relation to that. So instead, you're going to go, so with this full moon, you're going to go, wow, where am I not showing up completely authentically? Where am I giving my power away in this relationship by trying to sort of communicate things in a way to sort of stop it from hurting me, or from stopping it from it being a problem, or, this is all coming from a wounded place. And so now, yeah, because you have Cancer over yours, so this is mother issues, mother issues.
Mother, mother, mother.
And so what would have happened is you would have told the truth, and you would have been upset as a child as your mother, and your mother may have gotten you in trouble. Or, you know, um, you something about the third and the ninth where you just don't really know what's going on, and because you're not communicating, you're not finding out. So you're making sort of preemptive choices or preemptive ideas. And so you're communicating from that rather than saying, hey, what's going on? Do you see what I'm saying? So that's how the Leos are kind of showing up more face value, more in their, that's where they're going to show up in relationships with more frontal view. Suddenly thinking of them being naked and right there. And speaking with a way to say, look, this is how we're going to show up, and we're going to start speaking directly about this issue. We're solving it. Then we can move on. And and we know you Leos are ruled by the sun, so there's a good chance for triggering for poor Leos. They're so hardy, and Leos, they're just so adorable because when you hurt their feelings, they really do sit there with them. They're like, ow, with a big teardrop.
It's true.
So you have to, so the Leo, so the Leos are, trying not, they're trying not to get their feelings hurt, but their feelings are hurt. So they're trying to skirt that a little bit. So now the Leo is going to face that roar like a lion and say, here's this thing, here's how I feel. And this is what I need. And, I know you might be thinking this way, but if you're not, da da da. So you're not assuming that that's exactly what they're thinking. You're opening it up for opening up for dialogue before you make a firm sort of story on what's going through. Does that make sense, or what's going on?
Yeah, so I kind of what I'm hearing you say in different ways is kind of like instead of making assumptions, really open the door to communication and ask some questions and then be able to formulate whatever thought or question or whatever thing you're sharing with them from a place of actual truth and knowledge versus an assumption of what you
Yes.
think they're thinking.
And this is coming from a healed perspective because you're no longer dancing around a wounding that's going to get, it's, you've no longer got a poking out stick like a trigger. So it's like this trigger's healed now. So you don't have to dance around it. You can just full on face the relationship full on, bring it, bring yourself there.
Well,
So
we have the gardenia, which is a beautiful flower,
interesting.
I think anyway.
Yeah.
And this basically is a shift in perception, which I think is what you're also saying as well, Madelaine. So with this, you're able to see how all the aspects of yourself are human and beautiful. And that includes those parts of yourself that maybe can be at times a little bit manipulative, but not malicious. It's like
Right.
you're really attempting to connect with the other person in a way that you feel they will be able to relate to. But that's coming from your place of wounding, as Madelaine was saying, which may not actually be authentically connecting with that person.
Right.
So, and this also highlights any aspect of yourself that you might be avoiding. And think about that in terms of even when it comes to communication or the thoughts you have around a relationship. There could be something that you're avoiding. And this gardenia really comes in with this, to me, it feels like a purity of heart, a purity of self. And when you come into a relationship in that way, come into any form of communication, I feel like there's more of a potential for an open-hearted dialogue versus one that's coming from like a sideways angle instead of straight on, if that makes
Yes.
sense.
And really what we're really talking about is better intimacy, better honesty, showing up with intimacy because not if you're being manipulative a little bit, I don't know what other word to say, where you're just trying to sort of like control the situation or shape it or whatever, you're not being you're not revealing your true center self.
Yeah.
It's about being intimate. And that card really shows the Libra energy of communication. So I think Leos are learning to communicate and start to show up intimately and vulnerably.
Yes. And that's not an easy thing, I think, for anyone really to do. When
Especially,
yeah, exposing your heart, exposing yourself.
yeah,
Yeah.
because Leo have a lot of pride.
Yes.
Pride is the big part that this is a part of that story because a lot of the behavior that people have, or certainly more of the other side of the behavior, would be pride. The more of the Aries energy or the fire energy is more pride. You
Hmm.
know, I'm not
Hmm.
going to fuss with you kind of energy.
All righty. Virgo.
Virgo, Virgo. So I should leave it up a little longer for
Yeah.
me, and I get mad at
Yeah.
myself. All right, so Virgo, let's put you here. So this is going to put Libra in your second house of financing and self-worth. Big one for Virgo because they are victims. They throw themselves under the bus for relationships. They work pretty hard. They're very busy running around helping people out, and then they can get pretty resentful and then the pendulum sort of swings the other way a little bit into the Aries era. But there's so they're really realizing that a lot of their over giving, overdoing, over people, the victim in the relationship, they're seeing the low self-esteem because the second house always is about it is a good house to have this full moon in, by the way. This is a nice money full moon. I keep forgetting, that is a big part of this full moon because after you make this healing shift, your vibrations raise and you attract abundance. You sow what you reward. Wait, how did I say
Reap
that?
what you sow.
You reap what you sow. So your self-esteem has been reaping what you're sowing here, your value, how you value yourself. So now Virgos are going to say, wow, I'm really not valuing myself. Whenever I've had a full moon in the second house, I've seen in a situation where I wasn't fully valuing myself. And it kind of hits you hard and it's not pleasant. I'm going to be honest, especially as we know we've got Chiron in on this picture, right? So there could be an ouch. I really am not valuing myself enough here in relationships, in regards, and in a way that's the source of the victim being a victim, playing victim in the relationship. So there's a big healing around that, realizing, and we've had that eclipse in the South Node in Virgo. So you're really letting go of this sort of over busyness and doing too much to sort of of value to the person. You think if you don't do enough for them, they're not validating you, you're not valued by them, or they're not going to value you. Like you have to earn love, you have to work for it. So now they're healing that in a big way, and they're going to see in this full moon, have they healed their, do they see their value? So that's the reward that you'll reap, is reflecting that you do have value in yourself, and then you really attract a nice, wonderful, balanced situation in your relationships and a financial rewards. And again, maybe perhaps a co-collaborative partnership agreement comes up that's really powerful, that is again lasting a long time. It could be your other half. You decide to buy a house together and really commit, and you now really are reflecting, valuing yourself better in your connections and in your relationships. And this all leads to long-term commitment. So you're going to see, and if you don't value yourself enough, you're going to get triggered, and you're going to adapt. Virgos are very adaptive, so they'll shift and they'll learn that lesson. Hopefully it's not hard.
Well,
Learn it softly.
I think this pink primrose is a nice soft flower for them to lean on if they need it. This flower supports, activates, brings in easeful ideas and action. So in order for them to maybe bring in some of that material abundance or bring in something valuable into their life, it might require some action, might require an idea to get started. This also can inspire big visions of what's possible in the future. So this is a prime time for them to be focused on that, as well as a time to prepare for rapid growth. So there's going to be growth it could be in how they value themselves, what they value, or maybe something valuable coming to them. Internally, there could be a shift in their own personal growth. Externally, this could be a shift in their career or some creative work. All of that leading to some sort of what is the word I'm looking for? I just keep seeing things flowing towards them, like an opening, an opportunity, some sort of again, it's not windfall. It's more just, like some
If
gold
this
coins.
helps, if
Yes,
this
please.
helps, that's Mercury in Pisces. So Virgo are ruled by Mercury, and Mercury's in the purple sign of Pisces. So, that's the expansion energy of Jupiter and spiritual and all of that. So, I would say Virgo are having a spiritual breakthrough, and because they've got the North Node in Pisces in their seventh house, they're having a spiritual breakthrough, and they're rather than trying to work and hard work and manipulate or do all the things that Virgos do in the busy way to secure a relationship, they're having a spiritual breakthrough because they've got
Mm.
all these things happening in there. They've got all these Pisces energies in their seventh house. So they're having spiritual breakthroughs about relationships and how it really is the divine will that holds the relationship, not what you do.
And
It's love that holds it.
that is valuable. There is a lot of value in that. That's not monetary. It's something different.
Yeah,
So,
spiritual. That's Venus
yeah.
too. Venus is in Pisces, purple is Pisces. So it's like they're realizing that you don't have to work to hold the relationship. And by the way, this is true for everybody. The love is the to step into love with the will of love. And you live the will of love, not from our heads. You let love move the show. You let love be the verb. You know what I mean? It's hard to explain it. So yeah. So they're transforming into not materially based relationship what do you call it? Antics, but allowing the force of God and spiritual love or whatever to be the determiner of the actions, that's the move. That's what moves things.
Lovely. All right. Now we're going to go to those Librans. This is a big one for you guys. Holy moly.
holy moly, a lot of them will be ending relationships that if they're not in the right relationships, or a lot of them, what they will be doing, because we've just had the South Node in Libra for quite a while there, 18 months. They've learned their lesson and have stopped giving too much and being too, shall we say, accommodating and doing everything to make the other person happy, or hope they make them want to be in the relationship because they're so relationship centric people, and they just do it naturally. It's just like, they're just natural at being in relationships. So they are shifting now and really letting go of anything that isn't the right thing for them. And with Aries and all these eclipses in their seventh house, watch out. You're definitely coming down. Relationships are coming down if you're not in the right one. Now, if you're in the right relationship, you're going to most likely resolve some issues because you've got for everybody, you're resolving issues with Venus and in your ruling planet in retrograde in a spiritual sign, really helping you reflect on what is a spiritually aligned relationship, contract agreements, clients, whatever you've got going on this full moon. And your growth with Chiron there and Mars squaring that, you've really done a lot of introspective and shifting and healing in the relationship department, because there's going to be a surge for Libras to step into more, let's see if we get a red flower for Libra, to step into more Aries energy and to be a bit more selfish and more do you and find what you want, what pleases you. You're ruled by Venus. You're supposed to be living a life that gives you pleasure, not to sacrifice all these pleasures and happiness for a relationship. So it's like all the ways you've tried to make a relationship work and what you sacrifice. It's like that's not how it's supposed to work. The relationships, it's being in the right relationship brings you all that beautiful pleasures and the dream experiences of Venus, abundance and what pleases us and makes us happy and all these sorts of things. So it's like Libra are realizing that Venus energy is supposed to be this beautiful experience, not hang in there like a loyal person till death do you part in misery, and or trying to make, because you see, Libras can be in a relationship with pretty much anybody, because of course anybody that isn't too crazy, but because they're so accommodating and easy to get along with. Because I went for dinner with a Libra last night, and she was like, I was like, well, you want to go here for dinner? We could go here. And she's like, that's fine, either one. And I'm like, so Libra, I love working with Libras. They just agree to like, sure, we'll go to this one, And so this is going to be a time for Libras where they're going to be, no, I want to eat here. This is where I go. But the healing and the growth for Libra is that there's a wounding there of a fear-based to not be alone. And so a lot of what happens is they feel very alone in these relationships that aren't the right one. So they're really healing that journey, of learning how to be alone. They don't have to be single for a long time like other signs, some other people do, but it's like they have to sort of find, because if they're manipulating themselves to be in a relationship, it's not holding on its own. They're afraid to not be in a relationship, so they're afraid of being alone. So once they can embrace being alone, they can have that transforming experience where they're now operating from a place of, I want a relationship that brings me all the good things, or I'm going to choose the relationship that harmonizes. I'm going for harmony now, not for just a relationship. So it's a big one, for a lot of healing involved for them. It really will show up because it's in your first house. So the source wounding that you haven't been looking at, that's kept you constantly in relationships, is going to show up, and it might be painful, but you'll get through it and you'll be very, very happy on the other side. So hang in there.
Well, and we have the strawberry blossom. It may not be a red flower, but it's a red background.
There is.
And it activates optimism, and the message is expect the best. So pretty much an exclamation point to what you just said. This is a flower that gives you support for openness, for growth and opportunities, which is really where they are right now. They're in this place of being ready for something new, something different. It's
Mm,
a fresh perspective. And the Aries flower here, the
wow.
red hibiscus, this also had to do with a fresh perspective. Hit the refresh button. So these two flowers are working together. They're working in tandem.
Very interesting,
Mhm.
isn't it? It's
Very,
almost
very.
like the Libras are not going into the Aries, they're just being bolder about who they are, showing
Yes,
up more authentically in the relationship than making themselves small in the relationship, you know.
exactly. And I mean, look how bold this is, even though it's
Yeah.
not a bright red flower like Aries. They don't need that flashy necessarily. They're just being authentically themselves, and that's bold enough.
Yeah,
So I
that
love the
Aries
strawberry
one.
bush.
Yeah, and that Libra is in their seventh house for Aries. And look at them being very bold in their relationship, taking a bold choice with that too.
Cool.
Did I talk about the Aries flower? Somehow I feel like I went back.
The Aries flower um was this one. And this one we felt
Oh,
like,
okay.
yeah. Yeah, this had to do more with
Okay,
like
that's right.
choosing a relationship when you have all these options, like finally being
Right.
able to see.
That's right. So how did the Aries flower show up as Aries? I don't understand how
This
that
one was
became.
the last one.
Oh,
The
from the
last
last week.
the
Yeah,
last
yeah.
cosmic chat. Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
All righty.
Sagittarius.
Well, no, Scorpio.
Thank you. You know what I did on my videos? I accidentally put Scorpio up for Sagittarius film and I put the Sagittarius vision on it. I mean, pictures on it. So it's like
Oops.
weird. Yeah. Okay. Scorpio. Okay. Scorpio. Let's get to you guys here. So you're ruled by Mars. So you're going through quite a bit of healing. Again, mother wounding, ancestral wounding from many perhaps past lives as well, coming in from our ancestries. And you've got Libra over your 12th house, right? So you're definitely going through a big awakening or realization that you have some sort of subconscious pattern. It's funny because I have a reading with a Scorpio today, and this is a topic that's come up. They get into a series of karmic because they're ruled by Mars, and Mars is a sort of spontaneous energy, impulsive. They can just impulsively fall in love with people for like really short periods. Aries can do that too. Like then it fades, but they can get pretty. Anything that Mars rules is like all of a sudden they get excited about it and then it fades, right? So there's a karmic patterning going on where they are, you know, getting in relationships with people just for the sake of getting in relationships, I'm going to say, and that, they were just attracted to them. And it's like not everybody that's pretty cool and attractive is necessarily that we're supposed to get in a relationship with. So I think Scorpios get into relationships with, again, similar to a Libra thing in a way. But so there's this sort of subconscious, past life, karmic patterning that's driving them from a deep place that it's very hard to really even understand. But on this full moon and with Venus and Mercury going direct, you're going to see a clear resolve of some sort of patterning in relationships and in ways that your fear-based choices for relationships or superficial relationships, being in superficial relationships or being superficial in your relationship because you can't let anyone deep in, or there's going to be a trauma wounding around relationships with that Libra there. So there's almost like hard for Scorpio to really they're very deep people. So it's almost really hard for them to there's wounding in there too. So when you let somebody in deep, it can be painful. So they don't really want anyone in deep. They want the superficial situation. So now I think there's a breakthrough with that and a realization that they can let somebody in more. And that can be in your current relationship. It can be in relationships with your children or business partnerships where you're not showing up honest and real. Scorpios are mostly very honest and real, but if there's a wounding and a past life trauma, they're dancing around that and can be quite manipulative through their communications because they have Capricorn over their third house. So they have defense mechanisms up. A lot of people do. It's having walls up and defending and putting walls up with your heart here. But I think that there's going to be some sort of pattern that Scorpio keep doing that's going to fail them this time around. And there's only one choice, and they show up it's kind of like being caught with your clothes off, raw and naked, and just, oh, here's my truth. Here's what I really am. Here's the whole of me. It's not that impressive, but I've been hiding this from you because I don't want you to know who I really am, or something like that. And also being in relationships where you don't have to be who you really are. Or being in your relationship and hiding in the relationship because of wounding, and you don't want somebody in that deep that can hurt, because when you've got stuff deep down, it hurts. Let's just say deep love, true love, it hurts more. So, there's a lot of people that put walls up around real love. They're like, this is going to be too deep and too real. So so Scorpio are really letting people, letting their true, letting love in, and facing the series of choices that they make that stops them from having to do that. A safety net, a safety barrier. But Aries do that too, and Libra do that too. And by the way, Libra, I'm going to jump around. Libra preemptively like to end relationships just because they think somebody's about to end it, right? They can preemptively end it. But Scorpio can hide in the relationship and sort of continue for a while, but this will be a full moon where the truth comes out, where who they really are, their wounding shows up, raw. Could be painful, but good. It'll be a purging. It'll be the revelation of a toxic truth coming up that then is healed and ended.
Well,
How
interesting you use the word toxic, because we have the pomegranate flower here that has to do with detoxing and re-energizing. So it's ridding your system of toxins, and toxins can be on a physical level, but it can also be on an energetic level. So,
psychologically toxic, and yes.
yes, taking on, like, taking the relationship angle here on this, taking on energies that aren't even ours and making them ours in order to, like you were saying, to hide in the relationship, to feel that sense of worth or value within the relationship. You can also take on the stress of others. So you might, be in a partnership where you are the sounding board and you're holding all of this for someone else, and it's actually causing you harm. It is no longer benefiting both people. It's lopsided. We're talking about harmony and balance in relationships that could be potentially out of balance, leaving you feeling fatigued and exhausted and low energy. It's time to rid yourself of that energy, time to rid yourself of that relational dynamic in order to re-energize yourself and be able to show up in the relationship as who you truly are, and then see if the relationship flourishes or not.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the pomegranate flower. And this too, just to me, screams of self-empowerment.
Yes. And that is kind of like the lower chakra. Like that's, because Scorpios are known for being pretty sexually, shall we say, I don't know what the word is.
Expressive.
Thank you. I like that. It's a talent, a part of the Scorpio sign. So that is the sexual chakra. So it's almost like finding the true divine sexual counterpart, that, aligning with, sort of healing yourself through sexuality with most likely your divine partner.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Very cool.
Oh,
Right. And now we're ready for Sag.
all right. I was being Sagittarius and jumping.
This is a good one. 11th house, right?
Yes. I like that. Yes. That's where my ex-husband was Sagittarius, and he had his Mars and Libra in his 11th house, and he was very successful in his work. So Libra over the 11th house is very lucky, actually. Um, um, so okay, so there's going to be some sort of situation involving your tribe, your group, public persona, who you are in the community is going to reveal either the insecurities and the relationships that you made out of an insecurity, wanting just, I'm going to say, knowing Sagittarians. It's not necessarily insecurities, but they might just be, with the 11th house, they're going to be friendly to everybody kind of thing. And that's okay. That's good. But not everybody is their friends. So there's going to be some sort of wounding and some sort of healing around that because you're going to have Aries over your fifth and you had an eclipse there. So you may have ended some friendships and or just because your life is moving in a direction and certain tribes and certain people are no longer in your location and you're just sort of living or moving or something's going on in your life where you're just kind of moving away from another group of people, right? And so then you're going to see the wounding that was in you that was having you be in some of these relationships or needing or wanting these friendships. And then as they as they fall away, you suddenly feel, oh my gosh, am I losing these friends? Should I be holding on to them? Do I need to reach out and talk to them more? And it's like, so you're really realizing that you're holding on to friends and tribes and certain groups of people or just to sort of feel popular and just afraid of not being popular or something. Well, anyway, that's healing. So then you step into these new tribe, new friendships, new acquaintances, new humanitarian projects, new endeavors that are based on a healed version of the Sagittarian with a dharmic role, so that you're involved with people that you see as co-collaborating with you. And this is and Sagittarians always have long goals. This is also a house of distant dreams and goals and acquirement and having a dream come true. So this full moon puts you in some sort of, it could be a social media environment, a dream come true there where it starts to be successful and you realize you've been going at your social media thing wrong. I changed it.
And it's great. It's
Oh, thank
good.
you. So then that could really be really great for Sagittarians on the social media plane, but also you could meet a person that you know through social media. For instance, it could be reconciling because it's Venus and Mercury in retrograde, and so you could suddenly meet someone on social media, like a dating site. You meet your true love, or somebody in your tribe group now becomes a permanent relationship that you've known maybe only through. I know people who've gotten in relationships with people they've only met through social media, and they just were talking to them through Instagram for about a year, and then they meet in real life and they hit it off, right? So there could be a relationship forming through social media that now comes into reality. And then don't forget, shall we say, your other Venus house is in your sixth house. So there's a good chance everybody steps in of service and joint resources or joint soul contracts of service. This is very much because you've got Taurus over your sixth and Libra over your 11th. And Sagittarians are a very dharmic sign. All Sagittarians I know they usually don't do jobby jobs. They usually step into their true calling. They usually are very driven to do dharma, and they will walk a path of poverty in that journey. Like it's important to them, right? So in other words, they want the thing that fulfills them. So with this, so we're seeing we're seeing relationships and tribe groups that align with your dharma that really do support your calling and your purpose. So it's like things really line up for Sagittarians here. They do have a wish come true, a dream come true. Looks very good for Saggies, you're right.
Well, I love the dandelion for Sagittarius because it reminds Sagittarians to go back into their playful side. They can be very focused, very driven. And this is a reminder to let any tension around maybe what you've been working on, or maybe some sort of disruption within a friends group, or maybe something that you've been working on in social media that has been causing a little bit of like stress or anxiety in your life. This is a reminder to just let that go. This is relax. It's all going to work out. It's all already working out. There's a feeling, where's Mercury for Sagittarius? Because there's a feeling of mental freedom for them also.
Yeah, Aries is in their fifth house, which is interesting because that's the orange energy of Leo, and that's the fifth house. So
Okay.
there's projects. Yeah.
Yep.
Collaborative.
So,
Yeah.
and then joyful persistence. So whatever it is that they're working on, persist with a joyful, playful nature. That's what the dandelion
Advice.
is reminding Sagittarians to do.
I'm going to take that advice.
Do it.
Woo.
And if you see a dandelion as the
Yes.
springtime is, bringing them up to the surface, you'll be able to smile and know that it's a little sign.
Yes, I will. And I like that there's two dandelions there, so that's great. So they're lining up with their co-collaboratives.
Letting
And they're,
go of something that's just
yeah,
not,
that dead one, some other artistic creative project or something is going bye-bye. I'm
yep,
also thinking of my son in this. And then a good collaborative partnership with that orange there with the creative, like everything you said.
yeah, very
It's good.
cool.
Good time to be Sagittarius.
It is.
Right.
All right.
So
We
Capricorn,
are, yep.
Capricorn.
Don't forget the card.
Oh, thank you. I can't believe we've done it every single time this time. Last time, do you know how many I hardly pulled them up at all.
Really?
Yep. At the very beginning, like three or four, I didn't even do it. I'm like, I can't even believe that. It's very
That's
weird.
crazy.
I know. And we talked about it and everything. And it was like, I just didn't even pull
I
them
could have
up.
sworn you did.
Yeah. Well, go back and look. You'll see
All
if you
right.
desire. I mean, it's boring, but anyway, I
All
believe it.
right. Well, we got it this time.
Yes, this time we did it. Okay. So Libra, you've got Aries in your first. You had an eclipse there, so you're most likely moving, having issues and drama with family or mothers. And then that means you've got Libra over your 10th. So this is a full moon around your career. Great. So again, this is all is reaping what you sow. So if you've done a lot of spiritual work and most Capricorns have worked hard. They do work hard. So I'm pretty sure they've probably done career. They're going to reap rewards with Saturn, I'm sure, in all of this. But they are going to see that the um the healing of their mother wounding and whatever that crisis that happened in their fourth house with that eclipse is going to help them see that they're living small and that they can reach more for their career because it is a really good auspicious full moon when you are healed and when you are um, shall we say working from because Capricorns can slog out of see because Libra is about enjoying yourself like it's pleasure. So they're so laborious, Capricorn. They work so hard. They don't have any frills. They don't buy themselves little roses and nice things. And they tend to just be the slog horse. And so now they're sort of with the full moon there, they're realizing how they, see like throwing your bus under a relationship, they throw themselves under the bus and work too hard and people please too much in their career and in their work environment. And also in their marriage partnerships on some level, they've got a little bit too much how everything looks, how everything appears, image, because they're very status Capricorn are very status aware. They're about status and about moving up in society and in the corporate ladder kind of energy, right? So with Libra there, they're people pleasers in work. And that was my ex-husband. That's why he did so well, though. Libra, he had his Mars there. And so he is, it works well, but there's a point at which you're not really walking your authentic dharmic path. So Capricorns are starting to adapt to realizing that they're coming out of a fear-based energy of trying to keep a career stable and secure through people pleasing or through distorting of who they are or through being really diplomatic and manipulating their stability rather than stepping into which is now going to happen because they're coming from a healed place, stepping into a dharmic calling that pleases them, that they look good in, not because they're trying to look good in, because it actually fits them. So it fits them, so it looks good. So in other words, they're going to shift how they've been going with their careers into something that's much more flattering to who they are as an individual. Like I can think of one Capricorn who's been in sort of the field of psychologically helping people through like psychic work and stuff. And now I think they're stepping more into performing work or being more of a presenter or like a public figure in speaking engagements and things. So it's like there's a shift for Capricorn to not be so I want to say modest because they're so focused on being hard work and stable and creating security that they're not putting any beauty in their career. You know, Libra or pleasure or enjoying the sensory experience of their career. So in other words, they're aligning, they're making work they're stepping into a career that pleases them rather than a career that just is their hard, sloggy work. So there's some sort of healing in that where they trust their feet. They start to trust their own feet, their own ability to land. So it's kind of a tricky one with that 10th house there. But they're having that perhaps a crisis in their fourth house for moving, but then they step boldly into some sort of dream career that somehow is more pleasing and more pleasant and beautiful and happy. And they're just going, okay, well, I think I'm just going to trust that I land on my own 2 feet with this. I hope that was
Okay.
clear. Like I stumbled on Capricorn there a little bit.
Well, this flower might give a little bit more context and perspective. So we have the white magnolia for Capricorns, and I'm going to pull my notes over because I wrote so many of them. I don't want to have to keep looking over. So, okay, this flower has to do with a reminder that there is divine guidance in every moment. So perhaps for them, they've lost sight of the true guiding light of their fulfillment within their career. And it's not what they've always looked at or always focused on, which is, you know, maybe the hierarchy of it all, or, you know, the status of it all. It really has to do with what is your divine mission? Like what is that? What is your purpose here? This is a card, a flower that's saying something is getting ready to change in a big way for you. And I have a friend and a client, and then obviously my partner in life, who I can't say for him necessarily that from a career perspective that things are changing in a big way, but I do feel like there is a shift that's happening for Capricorns. And then I'm also Capricorn North Node, so it's like I can feel that sense of change.
Mhm.
So it's going deeper into what is it that really fulfills you, what guides you. It's not necessarily what you think it is. It's go
Mhm.
beneath the surface of that and awaken that all-knowing part of you and be aware of divine timing. So be aware of an opportunity that might present itself that's going to lead you where it is that you are meant to go, and have a sense of what is your highest aspiration, and focus a little bit of energy and attention there. Not everything, but just get clarity on what that is for you. And this is a prime opportunity for you to be able to harness that energy and move towards that place for yourself. So the white magnolia for Capricorn, I feel like is what's happening with my hair here?
I know that's
It's a really supportive flower for you going forward. So I love this one. I even just the purity of everything around it, and then we've got this like spark, this like fire of some potential, and then this flash of something. Just good stuff.
well, that remember Capricorn are ruled by Saturn and Saturn's in Pisces and is conjoining the North Node. So we're going to get a really big shift of destiny for Capricorn. And it does sort of remind me to say that Venus and Mercury going direct in Aries in your fourth house does give you a lot of clarity around your Libra house. So you are
Mhm.
going to see your true path. And with that Saturn in Pisces, your old life is dissolving away and you're becoming way more mature and grown up and responsible or taking on more responsibilities. But mainly your old life is completely dissolving
Yeah. Yep. Very, very true. Very
forever.
true. Forever. All right. Aquarius.
On my videos that I did, there was only 7 minutes. I'm trying to keep them more aligned, more time equal, but sorry, Aquarius. Anyway,
Sometimes it's hard.
yeah,
And sometimes there isn't as much to say for certain signs.
I got stuck on what to say. So hopefully I don't feel that way right now with Aquarius.
You just shared the screen. Did you mean to do that?
No, I didn't. Sorry. I was trying to see the screen. Okay, there we go. So Aquarius, in your first house, Saturn, your ruling planet, is in your second house, dissolving the old ways that you made money. And because you've got the eclipses there all year, new ways of making income are coming in that are much more aligned with your destiny and your soul's calling and your soul purpose and your soul's fulfillment. Then we have this full moon in your ninth house, where you do have a complete and utter shift in your perceptions and your perspectives. But again, there's going to be a healing of that Chiron opposite this. There could be arguments, conflict. Aquarians aren't like that usually. They tend not to be the most conflicting, they're not the most, they tend to be easygoing in that way. But in your relationship, something could fire up and there could be a mix up, or something comes to light, because you're going to have the sun there in your in your third house. So information and knowledge comes to light that could really trigger you, that could make you want to end a relationship if you're in the wrong relationship, or something comes to light and you are very healed around it, and you get over it and you guys work it out. But there is definitely communication versus perceptions, something going on in your relationship, what's really going on. And you break through some sort of healing over some problems that's been in your relationship for a long time, and you have a breakthrough, and it's going to be through communication and shifting your perception as to what's been really happening. Because you might have been perceiving what's been happening in your relationship from a wounded perspective. So for instance, let's say you're in a relationship, or you split up with the person and you're mad at them, but they're your real person. And then you take some time, and in these energies, you reflect and you see that you really had too many expectations, and that you were really wounded you were coming from a wounded area, and that you really needed not, now you see it from a different perspective. And now you realize you just needed to communicate and say, is this what's happening, rather than this is what's happening. The same kind of mix between we had with Leo, I think. So it's sort of like this healing is going on through your mind perceiving things, and how you're perceiving things from a wounded place rather than from what's really happening. And then you're communicating from a less aggressive or accusational place. You start communicating from just, let's open things up and find the truth. Then we can make a decision, because there's a lot of decisions being made in these energies. So there's some sort of breakthrough of a wounding that is something happens in the relationship with an Aquarius where something's been hurting and wounding, and it no longer hurts and wounds, because you have a whole shift in the way you look at it. Like you suddenly see it from a completely different angle, and it's just so not a big deal. Like I'm going to give an example. Like, for instance, let's say your person, you see them on Instagram or social media, and they're talking to a lot of different women, and you're really triggered, and you feel like, or vice versa, you're the woman and you're doing that. And then you suddenly realize it really doesn't mean anything. They're just trying to keep a social media thing going on, and they're just trying to keep it alive and being responsive and stuff like that. So you're just perceiving it, and you're perceiving it from a wounded fear of abandonment. So you got to do some work on that. But this full moon will bring it up, and then you hash it out, you communicate it out, and you goes, no, I'm just doing this because I have to keep my profile going, and I can't just drop the ball on people that are talking to me. So you have this total shift of perception of what's really happening. And then you heal through that. You're like, wow, I really do have a I'm looking through things from a wounded glasses, and then that sort of goes away. Once you have awareness of these things, they really go away. And plus, we've been working on all of these for a long time. So we're at the end of this. And then, this is a really nice energy to have Libra there, and it's a good luck. So there's some sort of lucky, you decide who you want to learn or study with, but it is a really good luck house. So you could see a new dharmic, you become really aware of a dharmic path, or collaborative project you're supposed to do with your other person. You heal this sort of misperceptions about each other. You start to communicate better, and then you can really align with a co-collaborative joint resource partnership agreement, and go forward. You could travel, you could take a mission, a dharmic role, but you're liberated. This is very liberating energy. You feel really broken free from this sort of repeat problem, and you realize it's just you and the way you see things. So it's a good luck one for Aquarius.
Well, we have the saguaro
Wow.
cactus. I feel like there's a theme here with some of these flowers. This dissolves disharmonious or misaligned intentions. magnifies purity of heart, and has an energy of effortless problem solving. So
Wow.
that really that really connected with what you were saying when you were talking about that, being the communication and, really being able to to not allow a small thing to become a huge thing,
Yes.
to come back into your own wisdom, and also get curious about the expansive higher wisdom that exists as well, and communicate. um when there is a problem, you've got the saguaro cactus behind you to
Wow.
effortlessly solve it. So
Yeah, that really looks like with somebody talking with a tongue, like that there's a tongue sticking out like "Arr." And then with it being in the air energy, it's going to be opening up the communication realm more,
hmm
opening
hmm
up opening all that up.
yeah. All
Last
right,
but
we're
not
rounding it out with Pisces.
least, so Libra for Pisces is in your uh, uh um, mm, mm,
Eight.
mm, eighth. Yeah, okay, wow. So the water signs are the ones that do mesh more in relationships. Scorpio, Pisces, and Cancers. They have the water. If you think about water, it sort of blends. They lose their own definition in the relationship and they tend to blend into the relationship and lose their own autonomy in it. So Pisces, and that comes from some deep healing that has to happen in that eighth house of trauma around abandonment. So, and oftentimes the water signs create their own abandonment because they're flooding the person and the person has to sort of find autonomy. So, there's some sort of healing involved now where the Pisces are no longer having to you get it. So this Libra energy is where you try to manipulate the situation or try to pretzel yourself or try to accommodate the other person more than what you need. And you're doing it from a fear-based, trauma-based, a fear of abandonment issue. So now there's a transformation when you have a moon in the full moon there, and there could very well be some old stuff up, deep stuff coming up from triggering fears around losing a relationship. My Pisces sun does go through that. So there's this fear of like, oh my God, I'm going to lose them because something bad happened and I screwed up and now I'm going to lose them. Well, what happens is you transform into a realization that love is a force of its own and you can't lose it. You can't make love go away. You can't make love stay. You can't make yourself in love with someone and you can't make someone in love with you. Love is a divinely given force that is beyond our control. And so the eighth house is all about control. And you could lose a relationship. A relationship could absolutely come to the end where you no longer can control the situation, or you just stop trying to control the relationship and you magically discover this force of power of love and that it is a force that stays because it's love. And that you don't have to have a trauma-based, fear-based reaction to holding on it or whatever. Love is love. If trauma, if you were abandoned in a relationship in a past life and you lost love, that can often mean that it was good divine will. You weren't supposed to be in a relationship then. So the loss of a relationship comes with the acceptance of that being divine will for you. And then if it's not the loss of relationship, a new relationship comes in. If you're single, where you see this is divine will relationship, this love, the force of love really is bringing this in, not me. Like you're not manipulating the situation. You're like, wow, this is love. But basically, it's a transformational full moon where the Pisces has a big healing around love and waking up to the power, the divine source of what love, like love is a divine source. And there's sort of a spiritual, because that's the house of moksha, there's a liberation, there's a sudden sort of realization that and there's a healing there because it's like you realize, especially with that Virgo eclipse where you had to let go because you would have had Virgo in your seventh house. And so now you're reaping the rewards of having faced in love or losses in the past, and then now being sort of healed and trusting that who you are, flawed and all, does not determine the love staying or not. The love will stay with it's unconditional love. I'm struggling with that word. Unconditional. So you're waking up to realizing the power of the love is what holds that keeps this relationship secure, not you, who you are and what you know, how you, what you do if you screw up or not. Because the eighth house is, and by the way, the eighth house can be a really big windfall. So if you've got the right things going on in your chart right now, that's like a sudden big increase in income and a sudden sort of lucky gain and win and money, like a windfall. It could be a big loss too, but if it's a loss, don't worry, it's for your highest good. But mostly because of what this looks like, it's more of, could be a big windfall for Pisces, which it would be great because my son could use that. But yes, it and with that Taurus trine, with the Uranus in your third house, information coming in that's really could be very good news for Pisces. They have a kind of a windfall, and that's coming as a result of having pulled themselves back into their center from giving it away, from afraid of relationships not working. But they also doomsday, they also have a feeling always that the relationship isn't going to work. There's a little bit of a fear there. So they're kind of realizing, wow, it does work because it's by divine will.
Well, we've got the flower that
Oh,
always creeps us out,
oh no.
the black bat flower
That is
for
so Scorpio.
Pisces.
It always comes up with either eighth house or Scorpio.
It really does.
Oh, it's
It's
so
just,
weird.
it's like a reminder, it's
Ah.
okay, it's all right. And if you recall at the top of our show, I
Mhm.
shared the flower, the rhododendron, which is the flower for this particular Libra full moon. And the rhododendron is in the elixir called Fierce Compassion. This is also in Fierce Compassion. And one of the keynotes for this is Fierce Compassion. So having fierce compassion for yourself, for others. Black bat flower gives you a feeling of confidence. I mean, you don't want to mess with this flower. You feel strong. There's a this ability where you feel like you can advocate for yourself, you can advocate for others, you can speak up, you can speak your mind is what I was trying to say. And the other part of this is like you're ready to be propelled forward. So it's like you're going into some kind of like icky, sticky places, some really excavating some stuff within yourself, but that is giving you the strength and the confidence to be truly authentically who you are, move you forward in life, and do that with a sense of fierce compassion. To me, the way I would describe it is you are steadfastly honoring yourself and others while being fierce about it. There's this like energy that's pushing you forward in a way that's not aggressive, but yet it's strong. You have a sense of compassion, but you're not going to get rolled over by people either. So the black bat.
Yeah, that is so eighth house. That's like that transformation. It's transforming the dark. It's bringing, it's kind of coming out of that dark, the underworld, the dark coming out
Mhm.
and sort of having more faith and trusting love a little bit more and trusting,
Oh yeah.
saying, okay,
Yeah.
love, it's okay. I can relax in love. I can let love make everything okay,
It's not
That's,
scary. It's not
yeah,
scary. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, black
Interesting.
bat flower.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
we've got quite this. I really didn't think that this Libra full moon was going to be quite so extensive
I
because,
thought we were going to be really quick and eat short too.
yeah, I mean, especially after the eclipse
Yeah.
happens, but
Nice. I was like, oh, it's 2 o'clock already.
yeah. So at any rate, I let me go pop over to the chat and see if there's any questions or anyone has anything to share. Nope, I think we're good to go over there. So yeah, I guess for now, we just wish all of you a beautiful Libra full moon filled with lots of love and
Romance and the pinky flowers that we saw today.
yes, yes. And coming into your own sense of self and your own sense of power, empowerment within relationships, but also in terms of just your own being going forward. And yeah, we'll be back in a couple weeks with more of
Taurus new moon.
the Taurus new moon, more goodness. And be sure to reach out to Madelaine and me if you need any support or guidance as we go through this moon cycle. I recommend going back and watching the Aries new moon if you want to kind of follow the story. If you missed that cosmic chat, it's available on my page as well as Madelaine's. And I guess anything you want to share, Madelaine, as we wrap up?
Just, Libra, these Libra full moons ruled by Venus are trying to help us align with the, you know, divine love, especially when Venus is in its exaltation, spiritual love. So we're just becoming more and more spiritually, we're moving away from a material, trying to control and hold onto material aspects of relationship and moving into more spiritual, more ethereal, more love, more emotional,
Hmm.
rather than the material version of it. And so then we, as within, so without, so then we're aligned with something more real and more true and more love. And so then and then it plays out in auspiciousness on the outside.
I love that.
Yep.
Yes. Yes, yes to all of that. All right. Thanks everyone for joining us. We're happy to be here with you on this Sunday afternoon, and we will see you in a couple weeks. So ciao for
Thanks
now.
for watching. Bye. I don't know how we got so